The World Economic Forum Deputy President and new ANC leader Cyril Ramaphosa says that it's been a great year for South Africa in Davos. He was speaking at a dinner for delegates from South Africa and invited guests last night. Ramaphosa is leading a delegation to the annual meeting to boost investment and trade. He says that many continental leaders have expressed new hope around South Africa, and it seems there's been a seismic shift.
We were able at that conference to look at the challenges that we face. And the challenges that we face are inequality, poverty, and unemployment. And we looked at them once again, as we've often done. But this time, what was different? What was different was to say, we need to address these challenges, but also address what we have been doing wrong. Because there have been things that we have been doing wrong ourselves. So the governing party was brutally honest with itself in terms of acknowledging some of the missteps that we have made. And what have some of those missteps been? There have been policy inconsistency. Many of you here are concerned about things like that. We have not been very consistent in our policies. And we got to grips on that and said, if we are going to grow this economy and address the triple challenge we face, which is unemployment, which is poverty and inequality, we've got to look at what impedes growth. All those things that are continuously impeding growth in our country, we've got to address them. And we've got to address them honestly, we've got to address them directly, and it was great to hear the governing party getting to grips with things like that. But it also said, one of the other things that impedes growth in our economy is the whole problem of corruption. In the past, we kept talking about there are perceptions of corruption, and we never really grasped the nettle. And this time round, we grasped the nettle and said, yes, there is corruption, and we've got to deal with it, because it is this corruption that has been permeating throughout the country, that is impeding growth. Many people who may well have wanted to invest in our country look at us and say, this is another corrupt country and we're not going to invest. And so when we, as the governing party, said we are going to deal with corruption, I think we were able then to get to a platform or a level where we would infuse confidence in the hearts and minds of people. The other issue, of course, is to deal with the problems that beset our state-owned enterprises. A business leader in our preparatory meeting stood up and said, colleagues, we may just as well not go to Davos, because the Eskom challenge is much bigger than we've ever thought. And if we don't attend to it immediately, this country is going to be in serious trouble. And in a number of ways, that is when we heard the sound of the penny dropping. The penny had dropped quite a while ago, but that's when we had it. And soon thereafter, Minister of Finance, myself, we immediately said we now have to go to the president and say, this problem has got to be resolved, and to be resolved right away. And when the thinking was, well, let's look at it next week, and we just said, no, sir. Right now, this problem must be solved, or we're facing a disaster. What then happened was what we've all seen. The board immediately changed. CEO, acting CEO, immediately appointed. Those we believe would be found, who have been doing wrong things, immediately removed, and that just repositioned everything at Eskom. Prior to that, we had received a letter, a memorandum addressed to myself by 400 managers, senior managers, who said, Deputy President, you've got to take action immediately. But even prior to that, if you may want to know, I'd been walking with my daughter, do it every morning, and a young man came running. He's a runner. He came to me in the street, and he said, I work for Eskom, I work in the Capital Division, there are serious problems. And he said, Deputy President, we've got to attend to this before the end of the week. So all those approaches just meant that action had to be taken. And we took action, and that has infused a lot of confidence amongst workers at Eskom, amongst many people in the country, and all of us as leaders in the various areas where we are deployed. And that already indicates the steps that we are going to be taking. Some people have said, is this a fluke? Is this a flash in the pan? Or are we going to see more action? I can promise you now that based on the resolution that was taken at the governing parties conference, we are going to be absolutely determined to root out corruption in our state-owned enterprises. We are going to do that.
We'll have more business news for you after the